Good morning. So this is our time management presentation. And the first question that was on the board was, what is time management? Before we go to our first slide, and according to Mr. Hanson, our career counselor, he states time management means sanity for him without prioritizing his activities and allowing time for each activity, which is very, very, very important. And that is absolutely correct, Mr. Hanson. You touched it right on. We actually will hit the process of prioritizing as well. Ms. Pryor states time management is being able to manage your schedule and control your day with time. Excellent response, sweetheart. That is definitely correct. So it seems like we're all on the same track thus far. And of course, with everyone being on time for this training, that shows that we all have great time management skills. So our first slide, and again, like I shared with you guys, I won't hold you long. Our first slide is, what is time management? So as we already have shared, we know that time management, of course, brings us a peace of mind. We also know that it helps us handle our time wisely. And we also know that it helps us prioritize our activities and keep us on the right track. And of course, we all know that is very important, especially with dealing with distant learning. A lot of you guys are at home, you guys are working, you're dealing with family, you have other responsibilities, some of you have children. However, we know that time management is critical, especially during the distant learning process. So this first slide states that time management is the process of planning and exercising conscious control of time spent on specific activities. Again, these were things that we already said in our comments, especially to increase effectiveness, efficiency, and productivity. It's important that we manage our time well so that we can be effective in our actions, and the things we do. We can be efficient in those things, meaning we're getting them done the right way. And then, of course, it increases that productivity. In reference to distant learning, the productivity would mainly be getting those classroom assignments done, and of course, accumulating those 30 hours needed for your weekly progress. Hold on just a moment, guys. It looks like I opened the wrong slideshow. This is not my final one. Give me just a second. While I pull up the new slide, if you guys could just respond in the chat box what it means to prioritize. That's what our next slide would be. We'll be talking about priorities. I know Mr. Hanson said that prioritizing brings him sanity. So what exactly do we think it means to prioritize? Okay, my apologies, guys. I'm back. So as we discussed, as you guys can see on this first slide, like Mr. Paul mentioned, without prioritizing, we all know that prioritizing is essential, especially when we have a lot of responsibilities and a lot of tasks that has to be completed. So according to our chat box, when it says all my must-do items first so that I keep in compliance with my job's responsibilities. Excellent, Mr. Henson. Once I have done those, it relieves the stress and I can move on to other best practices. Then the things I want to do. Excellent. And we'll talk about all of that. Definitely on point, Mr. Henson. Mr. Jason Memmer states that time management helps him to juggle many responsibilities between work and graduate school. Wow. I have to be able to schedule everything. And kudos to you, Mr. Memmer, because you do a lot of work here at Job Corps, and to be in graduate school, that's a major responsibility. And then Ms. Pryor says prioritizing is putting the most important tasks before others. Excellent response. Excellent, excellent. So as you all can see on this slide, every slide I chose pictures, and the reason I did that is to the pictures kind of sum up what it is that we are going to discuss. So as you guys can see, based on your comments, we all who are present right now are definitely on the right track. The image where it says now is checked, so we know that, like Mr. Henson said, like Mr. Jason said, as well as you, Ms. Pryor, putting those things first, what is needing to be done now, what is important right now that has to be done, what can wait till later, what can wait till tomorrow, what can wait till next week. And the biggest part of that, and I know Mr. Jason could definitely speak on this, is those deadlines. When you get those deadlines, you definitely have to instantly prioritize what you want to get done, even if it's something that you know would take more time. Then you want to make sure you're working on those things at a steady pace. And then that second image says, no one is too busy. It's just a matter of priorities. And again, yes, you're definitely right, Mr. Hanson. We definitely need to hire Ms. Pryor. We know that if we put them in priority, then we'll get them done. So our slide talks about what is important, like we already stated. So for right now, the first thing we know when we're waking up in the morning, what's most important when it comes to distant learning would definitely be signing in for attendance. And then it says, what requires your immediate action? We know once we sign in for attendance, we have to touch bases with those classrooms, making sure that we're up to date on those assignments, making sure that we're not behind on anything, ensuring that if you're at home and you got to take care of family, some of you may have to get children ready. So we have to understand that in the morning, we have certain steps that we have to take care of to help our weeks go by smoothly. And then sometimes with priorities, the third bullet states, what are your values? As well as the fourth one stating, what are your goals? So we have to understand that sometimes our priorities can be based on what we value most. Does that mean that what we make main priority is the most important? No, sometimes it's not. For example, if I feel like my main priority is to wake up in the morning and get on social media and see who commented on my picture I posted last night, that's showing that my value is more in social media than it would be in making sure I'm checking in for attendance or making sure I'm following up with my instructor's email to get my work assignment done. So again, we know that values play a major part in the decisions we choose to make or what we make priority in our lives. And then it says, what are your goals? We know for our students here at Pinellas County Job Corps, I pray everyone's goal is to graduate this program with a paying job in their trade or field, as well as earning their high school diploma or GED. So again, we have to focus on what are your goals. So if you're prioritizing your life, you have to, again, know that something has to be valuable to you. You have to have goals set to achieve those goals. And then what are your responsibilities? Again, responsibilities play a part in prioritizing, because for some of us who have children at home, or for Mr. Memmer who's in grad school, or for myself who have a second job, or you have individuals who have to get their families together. Again, prioritizing is essential, especially those you may be home taking care of your parents, your grandmother, grandfather. All of these things are essential to progressing smoothly, and we have to make sure that we're taking care of our responsibilities, but doing it in the most organized way as possible. And then the last bullet says, what is the impact of the activity? So again, like I stated earlier, if I got up in the morning and got on social media to get online and check out what my friends wrote last night, am I prioritizing my life? No, my main priority would be, the impact of that activity wouldn't be beneficial to my day. So the most important part would be for me to set the goal, achieve the goal, and make sure the goal is beneficial to my overall progress. And what that means is getting on social media isn't going to benefit my future, but me logging in every day and checking in for attendance with my instructor and my counselor and making sure that I'm doing those work assignments, that's my main priority right now, and that'll definitely be beneficial. So one of the comments say, we all need to set short-term and long-term goals in our personal and professional lives. Absolutely. When you reach those goals, you feel pride, and that is worth everything. Absolutely, absolutely correct. Mr. Member states, one of my favorite sayings of all times helps me remember to always consider the bigger picture when prioritizing. Never give up what you want, most of what you want. Never give up what you want most for what you want in the moment. Oh, wow. Yes, that is definitely true. So don't do it for the right now. Focus on what's to come. Absolutely, Mr. Member. And that's the goal for our students here at Pinellas County Job Corps. Of course, we know that sometimes it can be frustrating. Of course, we know that sometimes it can be exhausting, but you have to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is you working towards your career goals so that you could, of course, make more money than just working at a corner store or a convenience store or Family Dollar, any of those places. We know right now that could help, but that bigger picture is you working towards your career goals. And the next slide, we talked about prioritizing. Now the next step is planning. Goes hand in hand with what Mr. Hansen shared with us. When you're writing down those short-term and long-term goals, all of that plays a part in planning. The key to planning, we have to make sure that we've already prioritized what comes first. Now, what are our next steps? How are we going to achieve these goals? Writing out an outline is just like writing a paper. To me, when I was in high school, even when I was in college, writing a paper always came so much easier to me when I did my outline. When I knew what I wanted to put in my introduction, when I knew what I wanted to put in my body pages, I can't say paragraphs because in college it's pages. So when I knew what I wanted to put in my introduction page, when I knew what I wanted to put in my body paragraphs and my body pages, all of that stuff matters. So again, that all plays a part in planning. So for our students, when you know you're either enrolled in more than one class, you have to make sure that you're planning your day out. You have to make sure that you're making time for each classroom assignment, as well as making sure you're making time to take care of your business at home. So that second bullet says, planning helps you to avoid wasting time on activities that will not bring you success. Goes back to me, if I get up in the morning and I'm on social media, that's not going to bring me success versus me getting up in the morning, checking my email, see what my day is going to be like when I get to work. Then that next bullet states, planning helps identify goals, like Mr. Hansen mentioned, making sure we're setting those short-term, long-term goals. So it helps us identify goals. One of the most beneficial aspects of planning is in creating the goal to accomplish. Again, we have to make sure that in our planning process, we're setting those goals. We already know what our priorities are. Now we have to set those goals and achieve those goals so that our plan will be sought out successfully. And then that second from last bullet says, how can I plan to work? Meaning working for pay. Some of you are working outside of doing your Job Corps work. You may have paying jobs. to take care of home? And then how can I plan to work for my certifications or my high school diploma? Meaning now I have to plan to not only work for pay, now I have to also prioritize and plan to work for my certification or my high school diploma, and then also working for survival. And what that means is not necessarily working for pay, but it takes time to learn how to survive in the society we live in. And for our students, it's very important that we're prioritizing and planning, because we want to make sure that we're able to eventually do all these three types of work. We're able to work for pay. We're able to work to gain those certifications and earn those high school diplomas. And then, of course, also working for survival. We know that some of you may be in situations that are a little tougher than others. So, again, you have extra planning to do to make sure that you're not only living in a safe environment, but you're also able to find time to get those work assignments done, as well as try to find time to work temporarily until the center opens back up. So again, all of that is in our planning process. And once we have the blueprint, once we have our plan laid out, again, then it's time to get to work. So of course, you're going to prioritize. You're going to have your plan. Write the plan. I always say write the vision, make it plain. Write it out, work it out. And then once you get everything done, like we talked about in our comments earlier, once those goals are set, once you prioritize everything, then you're able to achieve those goals. And that's what we'll talk about on our next slide, which is executing. Meaning we've already prioritized, we've got our plan, we know how we want to get it done, but now let's put in the work. So on the image, you can see, again, things we've already touched bases on. That bottom image, it says that first step is setting the goal. That next step, make the plan. That third step, get to work. That fourth step, stick to it. And then that last step, like we talked about, is reaching your goals. So when it comes to execution, in that top image, you'll see where it says time for action. We know we've got the plan. Now it's time to put in the work. So with time management systems, it definitely helps you to evaluate how you spend your time so that you can become more effective in planning and executing your future tasks. If we can gain those time management skills now, then it'll be so much easier in the future to know how to manage tasks well, to know how to get the job done, and to know how to move forward successfully so that you can achieve those short-term and long-term goals. And then also this next bullet says, now that you have planned time to put in the work, outlines make the execution process much easier. So when you're making sure that you're setting those weekly, whether it's a weekly planner, whether it's a calendar, whatever it is that you're using to prioritize and plan out your activities, we also want to make sure that we're executing it and sticking to the plan. Sometimes we may deviate from our plan, but if it's something that's going to truly distract us from getting the job done, then we definitely want to make sure we stay away from those things, because the ultimate outcome is to reach the goal that we have set for ourselves to achieve. And for our students, of course, that would be gaining those certifications and getting those job training matches so that you guys could start your career paths. And that third bullet states, focus less on the time and more on the task, then all else will fall into place. And the reason I added that bullet is because even with making some of the phone calls to our students, what has happened is the first thing they're saying is, how can I get 30 hours? How can I get 30 hours? Focus less on how much time you have to have and more on the task at hand. And I can guarantee you the time will fly by because you're being more productive. And when you're more productive, time goes by really fast. I don't know if anybody can attest to this. When you're working hard, time flies. When you're procrastinating, it seems like the clock is in slow motion. And that just goes to show us that when we're executing our plans, when we've taken the time to plan and prioritize our goals, and when we're finally executing those goals, because we've taken the time to do it thoroughly, it makes time go by extremely fast. And before you know it, you'll have the 20 to 30 hours that you guys need to participate in the distant learning process. And again, the 30 hours is a weekly goal. So we want to make sure that we're executing and being very proactive with getting things done so that we don't get behind. And then it says work hard and try harder. And what that means is, even if it's something you don't understand, at least put in the effort to try to do it. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your goals. And if you feel like it's a goal that you can't necessarily achieve or you don't know how to achieve, then on our next slide, I'm going to talk about asking for help and understanding that that is not a bad thing. Anyone can ask for help. So we want to make sure that we're keeping that in mind. And then that last bullet talks about effort, effort, effort. As long as I can say I tried, as long as I can say I did my best, as long as I can actually say I sat down focused, I planned, I prioritized, and I worked hard to achieve the goal, then I can guarantee you those instructors, those counselors, the staff here will see that you guys are putting in the effort, and the effort that you put in, we will put in 10 times more. So again, all of this plays a part in time management. As long as you're executing your task and getting the things done that you set forth for yourself. So on this next slide, the bottom picture, I chose this picture because I felt like the words were perfect for what we've been dealing with thus far. And it says, if you can't manage yourself, you can't manage your time. Discipline and self-control are what get you on track to execute your plans by managing your time effectively. And what that means is, if I come into work, I know I have 8-hour shift. If I'm spending most of my time chatting and off task or outside or walking around, I can't necessarily get my work done. And then I also can't ask for help if I don't know what it is I need help on, because I'm not focusing or being disciplined enough to focus on what it is that I'm supposed to be doing. And then that next image says, don't be afraid to ask for help. And of course, some of our students are very diligent with communicating with our staff and asking for the help that they need. But also, I want you guys to understand that the Pinellas County Job Corps staff is here to support you. Without you guys, we don't have a job. So it's essential that you guys are asking for help, that you're communicating and reaching out to your instructors, your counselors, your mentors, and even family members. There may be a question that a family member could help you out with. So again, asking for help plays a part in time management as well, because if you're asking for help on something that you don't understand and someone is able to assist you, then that saves you time with the frustration, with getting upset, with beating yourself up about not knowing how to do something. So asking for help definitely plays a major part in time management. And then you want to be sure to conduct your research to ensure that you're on the right track. And what that means is, if it's a task that you've never heard of before, you can't get in contact with your instructor, you can't get in contact with certain individuals, do your own research. I feel like Google is my best friend. Sometimes it frustrates me when I see individuals ask questions to, let's say, Facebook versus going to Google, doing their own research and kind of finding out what it is they want to know on their own. Even when it comes to your academics or your trades, if there's a question that you don't know, you can't find it in the study material that the instructor has for you. You can't reach the instructor on the phone, and now you're pressed for time because you got to get this assignment done. Conduct your own research. Look online, find out what sounds similar to what you've already looked up, and then find the answer that you need. And then once you're able to get back in contact with that instructor, they can verify the work that you've done. And again, that plays a part in you executing those goals and trying your best to achieve those goals. And those teachers do see the effort that you guys put in when you go above and beyond. Make sure that you demonstrate that you've tried to help yourself. Again, that plays a part in what I just stated. I always feel like if I have a student who tries extremely hard and they fail the test, I would be more supportive of that student than a student who I know cheated and aced the test. So again, make sure that you're giving yourself support, that you're encouraging yourself to try, and don't give up. Try your best not to give up. The only silly question is the one that's not asked. So I always say, if you have a question, even if you think it's silly, even if you think it doesn't make sense, still ask the question if it's going to benefit you or help you achieve your goals that you've set forth for yourself. We all can do it. We all know that it's possible, but we also want to make sure that you guys are at least trying your best to make sure you're achieving these goals. The next slide, geared towards time management, we have to make sure that we're getting our rest. It's important that you're resting your mind. It's important that you're taking a step back from a long day, whether you're some of you guys are working and doing schoolwork and taking care of family, but we also have to make sure that if we don't rest, our body will force us to rest. So in the comments, just a quick question. How many hours do you guys usually get of sleep at night? And while you guys put those comments in the chat box, I'm going to just keep going. On this slide, you'll see on that bottom image, it says, if you correct your mind, the rest of your life will fall into place. Again, that means being at peace, creating a peaceful mindset for yourself. Okay, Mr. Member said 4 to 5 hours. Oh, wow. Well, we kind of get the same amount of sleep, too. I feel you on that one, Mr. Member. Miss Pryor says 3 to 4. And you're on time. I'm proud of you, Miss Pryor, because functioning off of 3 or 4 hours of sleep, well, I guess 4 to 5 isn't far from that, but 1 hour definitely matters. Mr. Hanson said less as we get older. Definitely true. Miss Pryor needs 8 to 10 medically. Absolutely. And I put that in my slide. From ages, I want to say it was from ages 16 to 25. It states that you have to try to ensure that you're getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Again, I can't even remember the last time I've gotten that many hours of sleep. So I'm definitely in the 4 or 5 hour range, and it really depends on, again, my task that I have to complete. If there are tasks I have to complete, sometimes I'm sleeping less than that because I also work a second job. So that plays a major part in time management as well. Sometimes we work more than one job and we have different responsibilities. But when it comes to rest, it's okay to detox your mind from the daily frustrations it encounters. Meaning if you've had a long day, you've done your best, you've worked your hardest, it's okay to take a step back from all that you've had to accomplish and just breathe, rest, get some peace, do yoga, work out, go for a walk, just to detach yourself from all the tasks you've had to work on. And then it says, take your days 1 second at a time to avoid overload. And what that means is, if, like we talked about previously in the slides, if we're prioritizing our tasks and if we're planning properly and we're executing our task and not necessarily getting off track, then we're already doing the steps to take things 1 second at a time, making sure that we're not overloading ourselves, we're not getting frustrated, once you do that priority list, stick to it. Don't deviate from it. Don't let another task come before the other, because then you start to frustrate yourself and you start to get overwhelmed. And we want to avoid those things, especially with all the responsibilities our students have right now. And then try to ensure, again, like we stated, well, we all know, all of us participating right now have to work on this step, on getting our 7 to 9 hours of sleep. If less, then avoid mental overload. Like we talked about, if you, for For example, everyone in the comments seemed to be getting it looks like less than 6 hours of sleep at night. So we have to definitely make sure we're avoiding mental overload so that our minds don't get exhausted. And then what'll start happening is we'll start forgetting stuff. You can't remember where your cell phone is. You can't remember where you put your car keys. You can't remember if you locked the door this morning. Things just start happening. You start frustrating yourself. And we don't want our minds to get in overload. And sometimes, believe it or not, what could really happen is when our minds are in overload and we have to drive, it can distract us from focusing on the roads. Or we have a test or a quiz and our minds are in overload, it can distract us from focusing on something that you know you studied for many, 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 many hours. So again, make sure you're getting your rest. And then Mr. Jason had a comment, said, this is why most of us normally crash for a long sleep period after a few days or weeks. Our bodies are telling us it's too much and it needs to catch up. Absolutely correct. Even for me, this past weekend, I went to Nevada, and even the time difference threw me off schedule. I was still waking up extremely early in the morning as if I was still in Florida. My body was still used to what I was doing here in Florida, but then when I got home, I crashed. I haven't slept for a good 9 or 10 hours in a long time. And like Mr. Memmer said, because my body was in overload, I definitely slept for a very long time. So I can definitely relate to your comment, Mr. Memmer. That is very, very true. So we have to make sure we're avoiding that overload and we're getting the adequate rest that we need so that we can complete our other goals that we have set forth for us. Yes, definitely, Mr. Hanson, Mr. Memmer, get some rest. But working on a PhD, that's going to be extremely hard for him. So we're going to keep you in our prayers, Mr. Memmer. Then our next bullet talks about making sure you're exercising, sleeping, eating, unwind, spend time with family and friends. So again, trying to squeeze in at least 30 minutes of activity to kind of detach yourself from your work helps your body to rest and relax. Sleep, like we already talked about, we want to make sure that we're sleeping. And then eating is definitely important to eat. It's definitely important to make sure that you're eating healthy, or at least trying to eat healthy, because again, we have to remember that the things we put in our bodies can also throw our sleep off, can also throw our minds off, can also throw off our entire day. If we, let's say for instance, you can't go to sleep right before you go to sleep, eat a hearty meal. I don't know about you guys, but I would wake up not feeling too well. It'll throw my whole day off. So now I'm behind on those goals that I set for myself the next day because I'm having stomach pains, or now I have to change my whole day around. So you have to make sure that you're eating healthy as well. That plays a major part in managing your time well. And then unwind. It's okay to take a step back. It's okay to sit on the couch and just watch TV for a little bit, but don't stay there. Don't spend hours and hours watching TV when you know you got goals to reach. And then, of course, spend time with family and friends. With our time management, because we all do have families, we have to make sure that we're making time for our families and our friends, because again, I feel like spending time with family and friends definitely help brings you a peace of mind when you're not necessarily thinking about those goals that you have to achieve in that moment. But again, if we're prioritizing and we're planning properly, then it's definitely easier for us to make those things happen. The second from last bullet says rest, but don't stay there. You have work to do. What that means is get your sleep, relax, take a step back and unwind, but don't stay there forever, because we know we have goals to reach. We know we have those 30 hours that we have to achieve. So we have to make sure that we're staying on track. And then that last bullet, Mr. Memmer, this is for you. Sleep. Tomorrow is a new day. You got this. So make sure that you're getting your rest. Make sure that you're unwinding and clearing your mind. And that way you're refreshed and you have more energy for the next day to achieve those goals. And our next slide is my favorite slide. It's definitely important that we celebrate our successes. We want to make sure that we're celebrating ourselves and also self-motivating ourselves. Because if no one else motivates you, then you have to make sure you're motivating yourself. And it's important. Sometimes people get frustrated in the thought of, oh, I have no one to support me. But a lot of the times it's important that we support ourselves and we motivate ourselves to do the right thing so that we don't get distracted, and we are also motivated even when we don't have individuals around us pushing us to do it. We can tell ourselves that we can do it. So the images that I used, if you see that bottom image in the right corner, it says stay positive, stay successful. And remember, positive thinking is very important for self-motivation. So our thoughts definitely play a major part in how we progress. Yes, it's definitely okay. Correct, Miss Walton. Patting ourselves on the back is definitely okay. And I know a lot of the time, even in college, because you were away from family, I had to do a lot of self-motivation because I didn't have someone house I could run to really quick to get a hug or whatever the case may be. So also remember taking that T off a can't, and you can do it. And then self-motivating. I love that image of the guy looking in the mirror, and then in the mirror his reflection has a cape, because right now we're all superheroes with all the responsibilities we have when it comes to distant learning. Our students are definitely being superheroes with making sure that they're getting these tasks done that are set before them, to make sure they stay in compliance. This is all new for us, but we're all tackling it. So it's definitely important to celebrate and self-motivate ourselves. And then it says, you are amazing and deserve to be celebrated. It's important that you, of course, we all like motivation and encouragement for others, but it's important that you celebrate yourself. But for example, with Miss Pryor practicing those great time management skills, she's going to be celebrated through the counseling and CSI department, because she'll be the first student to earn our Walmart gift card. And again, that's her being celebrated because she's going above and beyond to do a great job and stay engaged with the distant learning process. That second bullet talks about self-motivation is the force that keeps pushing us to go on. It's our internal drive to achieve, produce, develop, and keep moving forward. So again, like we talked about, self-motivation is a force, and we know having a strong force of self-motivation is a great thing, because we have to understand that when we're home on those laptops getting that work done, it's all the internal motivation that's going to keep you going to achieve those goals and to reach the hours that is expected. And then that third bullet talks about keep good company. If you're wanting to always learn how to motivate yourself successfully, you want to make sure that you're keeping positivity around you, making sure that you're keeping positive energy around you, ensuring that you don't have people around you that's negative or that talks negative. Instead, you want people around you that's going to encourage you and motivate you and keep you lifted up. With having a lot of tasks to complete, with having a lot of responsibilities, you want to make sure that you got positivity around you, because that helps you to move forward, and it helps you to self-motivate yourself when you're not around those individuals. Because sometimes you could hear positive words from a friend, or you can hear positive words from a parent or a guardian that will continue to push you even when you're not around those individuals. So it's very important that you're keeping good company. And even with keeping good company, you have to be mindful of what you put in your mind, because that can also distract you from handling your time well. And then, of course, with self-motivation, you want to make sure that you're not overthinking. Like we talked about in that last slide, we don't want our minds to get on overload. You have to make sure that you're thinking positive, you're thinking clearly, you're taking things one step at a time and not frustrating yourself on the many things you have to do, but focusing more on getting them done one at a time, with prioritizing, of course. And then that second to last bullet says, see the good in the bad. Meaning, yes, this may be frustrating for some of us. Yes, this may be a lot. Yes, it may be overwhelming, but like we talked about in the comments earlier, look at the bigger picture. Seeing the good side of all this frustration is knowing that in the end, you'll be one step closer to your career goals. So it's very essential that we're always seeing the good in the bad. And to me, I honestly don't feel like the whole distance learning process is bad. I feel like it's a learning process for all of us. And that's why it's very essential that we see the positive in everything. And if we all see the positive, then we all can motivate and encourage each other. And that helps us take off that T off a can and allow our students to be encouraged to actually get the job done. And then it says you are worth the effort to make your goals, dreams come true. So, excuse the typo error. It's you are worth the effort to make your goals and dreams come true. Meaning, every student who is an active student at Pinellas County Job Corps is worth it. You guys are worth it. You're worth getting that good paying job. You're worth getting that $20 to $25 an hour paying job. You're worth getting that high school diploma. You're worth getting your certifications. But again, we have to make sure that we're taking the necessary steps. We have to make sure that we're prioritizing our goals and the things that we have to achieve and the things that we have to accomplish. We have to make sure that we're planning and writing out the plan and making it thorough so that we know what our steps will be. And then we have to make sure that we're executing those goals, moving forward, taking it one step at a time, not overthinking. It's always important that we ask for help when we need it. We want to make sure that we're getting the adequate rest that we need. And then, of course, we always want to make sure that we're celebrating ourselves. So, again, it's essential. We all are here for each other. We all are here to support each other. And I just want to thank you guys for listening and participating. And again, we have it. We have what it takes. We can do it. It's all about managing our time well and taking time to yourself to kind of detox your brain from all the things you're putting in it on a daily basis. And on this last slide, of course, I want to thank you all for participating. Thank you all for being engaged. And then this last quote that I put on this slide is I wanted everyone to remember that teamwork makes the dream work. And even for you, Miss Pryor, I want you to understand that we all are here to support you. We all are here to help you reach those goals. And we want you guys to make sure that you're staying on track and moving forward as smoothly as possible. And if there aren't any questions, you guys can write them in the chat box or even unmute yourself. You're welcome, sweetheart. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. That way we could have this for our later presentation.